Let's do it. Ask the Lord to bless our time together today. Sierra, would you lead us, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything you've given to us. I just ask you to be with this class period. Help us to get something out of it. Help it to be productive, and just be with the rest of our day. In your name, amen.
Amen. Okay, I want to begin by reading a verse. You don't have to look at it, just listen. But it's a great verse in Proverbs about to we women. And it says, it's Proverbs 14:1. You might want to, your notes, girls, take your notes out. You're going to fill in blanks. And you might want to write this verse, just write the reference at the top of your paper. It's just a great verse. It's Proverbs 14:1. It says, every wise woman buildeth her house. And that doesn't mean we, bricks and mortar. It means we work to establish our homes. We're homemakers. We love our husbands, love our children. We build our homes. And that's what we're talking about today. And we're zeroing in on having children. But particularly with a little bit of extra attention to having ministry children. How many of you were in a ministry home? Your folks were in full-time ministry. Okay, about half of us. All right, I was not. My dad was a deacon, but I wasn't in exactly a full-time ministry home. But I put this on the board. It's just such a wonderful statement. Motherhood is a privilege, a joy, and a responsibility like no other. And that's so true. There's other great joys in life, but motherhood is truly one. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, we're not mothers. We're a long ways from being mothers. I just want to tell you, I can make a long list of ministry ladies that I have taught through the years that within 5 years they were married and had a baby. You think it won't be me, maybe, but you don't ever know. You don't know. You can fall in love, get engaged, and get married, and sometimes you say, well, we're going to wait a while to have children. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Okay. So anyway, this is very near future, I would say. For probably most of you. So listen carefully, tuck it in your heart, and keep these. Keep that folder. That's why I did the folder. I know it's hard to keep up with stuff, but tuck it somewhere in if you have files or something, and pull it back out when you have children. How many of you ever made a cake? Okay, right there's your folder, Elena. And their notes are on the left-hand side. If you'll take the notes out, we're going to fill them out in class, and the assignment about the handouts is on the board here, okay? To be turned in next week. But how many of you ever made a cake? Just everybody. Well, if you're like me, if I'm going to the trouble and sometimes expense to make a cake, I want to do it right. I don't know, some people just, they're not real careful, but I take the measuring cup. Do you measure very carefully? Are you one of those, like, I want to get this thing right? And, if it's got a spoon measure, I'm like, I get it. So, that's just the way I am. And we don't want the cake to mess up. We're working on a recipe where there are 3 basic ingredients to make it a cake. There's flour, and sugar, and eggs. And you want to get those just right. You wouldn't leave an egg out. You want to get your sugar level and your flour level just right. Well, I want to use that thought to introduce to you today that there are 3 basic ingredients for raising children. And they're love, we'll talk about that first. Discipline is number 2, and number 3 is teaching and training of the children. And you say, well, our topic is not just raising children, it's ministry children. Well, ministry children need just exactly what all other children need, with a few extra considerations. And that's what I'm going to try to add in some today, from the fact that I am a ministry mother. My husband in the ministry for 43 years, so we raised 2 boys. So although I wasn't raised in the ministry, I've definitely had my experiences. So I'll share some of those with you, what I've heard from others. So look up, number 1 is love. Or you see the 3 basic ingredients. I just mentioned them there, but let's look down to your notes to love. And let me ask you this question. You think about it, true or false? Is it possible for you to really love a child and that child not know it or not think that you love them? I saw some nods right off. Right. That's altogether possible. So what we want to do is to communicate our love to our children. There are 3 ways to do that. So the first blank is 3 ways to communicate love to a child. To be sure your child knows that you do love them. most mothers do love their children. I'm afraid some might not, but most do. So if you do love them, you definitely want them to know it, right? You want them to say, Mama loves me, Daddy loves me. So 3 ways to communicate love to the child. Number 1 is to touch and praise, and I call that tap. Tap your child every day. Touch and praise. You can remember tap. I read this years ago in a child rearing book when our boys are small. And I touch my children, of course, particularly when they're smaller and you're always, picking them up or patting them or something. And I think I've praised them often, but I thought, I'm gonna make that a goal. I'm gonna make it a goal to tap, touch and praise my children every day. So, how do you evaluate yourself on carrying that goal that way? I thought I tucked them in every night. My daddy tucked me in every night. I tucked my boys in every night, and I thought at tuck in time, I'm going to ask myself, did I touch them today? If I didn't, I'm certainly going to do it then, give them a good night kiss. Or did I praise them in any way today? Did I encourage them in any way today? So that was my little evaluation time. I said this years ago in a talk about TAP to, and Sharon Rabin, if you know who that is, she's pastor's wife at Beacons. She heard me say that, and she told me later, she said, I love that idea. I shared this, I love that idea. And she said, I'm doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it. And she told me years later, she said, I do that. And it's just a good idea. That communicates love, doesn't it, ladies? And when you're praising a child, it's more than just, we're into the habit now of saying, I love you, and that's meaningful, but praise is more than that. Pick out something specific about that child. You might say, hey, I love the way you put your outfit together today. That looks good together. Say something specific about them. Another thing, you can think of all kinds of things to pick out. You did a great job with that. And you mean it. Well, and then if you ever hear somebody else brag on your children, I'm like, I'm going to tell them that. Well, sometimes I would almost forget to tell them. Like that somebody might say, he's so friendly. He always speaks to me. He's such a sweet boy. Well, I got where I wrote that stuff down, so I wouldn't forget to tell them. But that's important. It might be indirect praise, but it's coming from somebody else, which really means a lot. So touch, tap your children every day. Number 2, second way to communicate love is to be kind and courteous. And the blank there is love is kind. We want a definition of girls God made it so simple. What is love? It's kind. It's courteous. It's saying thank you to the children. It's saying let mommy help you. It's treating a child like you would treat an adult friend, a girl that came in your room. You wouldn't be rude, would you? You wouldn't snap their head off. No, you're kind and courteous. We need to treat our children like that, because if we love them, what is love? Love is what? It's kind. And that's a way to communicate love. Okay, number 3, and this point will be a little longer. Plan to spend time with your children. Do you know how a child spells time? Spells love. It's T-I-M-E. They love it when you spend time with them, and that says they're important to you. So plan to do that. Would you agree with me that parents in the ministry are some of the busiest people in the world? Truly, that's so true. So we need to remember, if we're raising children in the ministry, we'll always have our ministry, but we won't always have our children, will we? And girls, when you stop and think about it, I know you're so young, you can't totally conceive of this, but you only have your children 18 short years. And it seems like they're born and turn around, they're in kindergarten, and then they're going into junior high, and they're graduating high school, and they're off to college. We were in the ministry, full-time ministry, every day. We still are in a sense, but full-time, every day, 43 years. We only had our children 20 of those years, because there were 2 years apart in our boys. So over half of our ministry, we didn't have children. You only have them a short time. So plan time with them. Okay, let's get down to some specifics of this. I've got, don't neglect your ministry, but don't neglect your children. And so what you do is you put your children in your daily to-do list, okay? Y'all keep a list yet? You keep a list? That's a good thing to do. When you have kids, write it in. I'm gonna do this within the day. We're gonna do this week. All right, one of the best things to do is, number one, there, plan weekly family time and regular vacation time. I had you all write some things about your family that stood out, and I didn't get everybody's name, so you're going to have to claim this. But this one said, growing up as a kid, my family had a certain day that we did something fun for the family. Every Friday night we would go out. We would go out to eat, go to Chuck E. Cheese, maybe go to a park on Saturday. You just have a movie. Oh, who wrote that one? Okay, you're claiming it. All right, that you had a family night, right? That's so important. You picked that out. That's one of the things that stood out to you. You have to plan that. You don't just wait till Thursday night or Friday morning, do you? Mother usually, and Dad, my husband's good at this, but he doesn't do it consistently. He'll say, let's do this sometime, and that's a great idea. But when it comes down to like getting it on the calendar, who usually does that in the home? Usually Mom. So plan a weekly family time. Here's another one. This is from Hannah. My favorite fun time growing up, this was so sweet. This is Hannah, right? Was going to my great-grandmother's house every Friday night. My sisters and I would spend the night, play games, watch TV, and they did that to you. You were 15 and then she passed away. Girls, both of these things that I've mentioned, are they expensive things to do? No, they're not $1,000 swing sets, are they? They're just simple things, but they're so important. And you wrote about that all these years later, how much that meant to you. Okay, so plan your weekly. Put it on. That's one of the things as a mother you need to do. Okay, plan regular vacation times. Okay, you need to go on vacation as a family. Holly, you mentioned going to Case Cove. I remember when you all did that. You know, it's just a lovely place in this world. It's one of our favorite places. But you went camping for a week. And that was your vacation. You had a vacation time every year that you looked forward to. Elena, you mentioned you looked forward to yours because you got away from the ministry and all the busy stuff, and you went to a theme park, or you went to Myrtle Beach, I think you said, and just had a great time. That's important to children. That's important in raising children. Another one mentioned going to the beach with friends. Who was that? That was yours. Okay, Savannah. Yeah. Okay. Every summer getting together and going on vacation. But vacation, you had a regular vacation time. Let me say about ministry. If you're in the ministry, sometimes you live a long ways from your parents and you take your 2 weeks vacation to almost go see your family, right? I don't know if you've ever experienced that. But what we did, our families were in South Georgia. So we picked out spots that we could vacation on. There was St. Simon's Island, there was Savannah, Georgia, there was Jacksonville Zoo, there was the Okefenokee Swamp that you could take tours through. I mean, you know, you can work with that, right? Even and your children, of course, they love going to see their grandparents, but do something special during that time. And that's a good ministry consideration. All right, number 2, in planning family time, or planning for your family, plan hospitality. All right, 1 Timothy 3:2 tells us that hospitality, it's one of the requirements for a minister. I mean, if God is listing the requirements for a minister, and what's one of them? Hospitality. Very, very important. I asked our sons, when I was giving this talk, I said, what's something that you would tell the girls to do? I mean, they were ministry children, okay? I said, what would you say to them? And the one that's teaching next door here, Lee, said, tell them to have people over. And kids love that. Did you love it when your folks had people over? I don't ever forget, we were in Memphis and Lee was only about 4 or 5, and he asked me one Sunday afternoon, he said, we're gonna have some fellowship tonight. I'm like, I didn't even know he knew the word fellowship. I thought, really? And so they love having people over. That's very, very important. Sarah Ames, y'all know who that is? That's Brother Nate's daughter. I had this from years ago when I taught the class. I had them write one time, just like I asked you to, okay? Sarah wrote this, Friday night, she wrote Friday night was family time. That's what she wrote. Should have said that earlier. Joy Ames, who is Brother Phil's daughter, I believe, she said when missionaries come over and just be with our kids, you know, those times are so important. So have people over. Our son Lange, who is in Denver, when I asked him the question, he said, just remember you can, as children, they're some of your best evangelistic tools, because who knows the neighbors better than mom and daddy even? Kids playing in the neighborhood, and Lange and them can't come home at Thanksgiving and Christmas, so every Thanksgiving they have some neighbors over that the kids know, or some people, some connections, and that's important. And the kids love that, and they feel like they're reaching out to people just like the family. So have people over. Okay, let's keep going. Number 3, plan to make holidays, seasons, and birthdays special. Now you all like that, don't you? Holidays, decorate a little, you know, decorate your house just a little bit. If it's nothing more than just this time of year, a Valentine's wreath on the door, some little something. But you can decorate little, you can decorate big. I'll never forget, we were out in Seattle at a church planting family, and the mother said, she said, I want you ladies here to go shopping. I'm gonna stay home and make some homemade chicken noodle soup and decorate for fall this afternoon. And her little 9-year-old daughter, this is a ministry family, she said, oh, that's my favorite thing about fall. I'm like, she's a 9-year-old kid and she loves that. You know, children do notice stuff like that. So have your house looking nice. Decorate, make birthdays big, make holidays big. Okay, I can't go, I have tons of stories from each of these, but we gotta keep moving, okay? Plan several sit-down family meals per week. There's a handout on that, the importance of mealtime. You have to, girls, if you don't plan to have a meal at home, do you think it happens? No, you can just get one. Is one better than none? Okay, and we had a big Sunday dinner usually, but and some others maybe, but you gotta plan that, and Daddy's really not gonna plan that, okay? So plan it. I call it the sacred table, and you'll love reading that mealtime handout. Some suggested no negative remarks, how to deal with children that don't want to eat their food, da, da, da. But make it a pleasant time, a time when you talk, you know, conversation back into. It's important. All right, plan time with children individually. Boy, is this ever important. They'll tell you things when they're just wanting with you or with their dad that they would never say in front of their siblings, right, girls? I'll never forget Lee over here. He and I were going down, we were going to a little ceramic class. Lane was at basketball practice. We planned to kind of do that. And he asked me, just driving down the street, out of clear blue, do you think God would let me be a preacher one day? He was 9 years old. Now, would he have asked that question in front of his brother? Probably not. Individual time. Dad's going to the grocery, you might say, honey, could you let one of the boys ride with you, or one of the, you know. I love this. Sarah Markham put this years ago. Go with a preacher on visitation. She went with her dad, just going on visitation. Just herself, not her sister and her. Ellis Crumpler, y'all know who that is, Tyler. She told me, she said, my dad took me one Saturday and he took Natalie the next Saturday. It's a good idea, isn't it? I mean, you might be some interruptions to that, but basically, she loved that. So plan time with them individual. I heard Clarence Sexton, who is president of Crown College, say that his daughter-in-law plans each night after supper, and she might miss a time or two in a week, but basically her habit is to call each child over to her and talk to them for 10 minutes. Just them. You think that's a good idea? It's really good. Plan individual time, okay? Number 6, plan times to read aloud to the children. There's nothing you can do for your child to better prepare them for school than to read to them. And y'all remember that. I think you might know that, but read books to them. Get their dad to read books, not just, so the reader is not just a mother figure, but a male figure also. I never forget when I read Charlotte's Web to our boys. Lane was 5 and Lee was 3. and I read a chapter a day before nap time. And I wasn't gonna let Lee stay because he wiggled, and I figured he would be quiet. And he wanted to, so I said, okay, we'll see how you do. Well, he said he loved it. 3 years old now. And it just thrilled me. When I finished the last chapter, the last time we did it, the first words out of Lange's mouth was, read it again. And both of my boys are readers today. But reading, that's so important. One of the neatest things we did as a family is, mainly my husband read a chapter a night of Where the Red Fern Grows. Y'all ever heard of that book? And we laughed together, we cried together. But that's so important. There's a good handout on that also that you'll be reading. All right, number 7, plan to capitalize on Dad's flexible schedule. Okay, we're busy in the ministry, probably busier than most people. Dad may have to be gone 2 or 3 nights a week, family along with him maybe. But does Dad have some daytime that other dads are down at the office that he could get away maybe sometime and go to a field trip or go to a ball game? Don't ministry dads have that? Yeah, they do. And work on that. And point it out to your children so that they're not thinking about Dad's gone every night almost. Well, he's got some times he can spend during the day if you'll work at that. So take advantage of that flexible schedule. All right, fun. Fun should be woven into our family life. Fun is serious business. Be a fun person. I had a friend of mine make me a little thing just so hopefully y'all be a fun person. Have fun. Enjoy your children, okay? There's another one. Just have fun with your kids. Brother Wayne, Dr. Wayne Johnson. Well, let me just say this before I tell that. Every person, that's every one of us in here, should either be an initiator or encourager of fun. Now, let me see how many of you think you would be the initiator. You're just one of those people. Okay. How many would say you're the encourager? You don't think of it up, but you like to do it. Yeah, let's do that. How many? Would you call yourself an encourager? You can be both. Yeah, you can be both. Yeah. Well, I think I like it, and I think of some things, but I'm more the encourager, I think, but I'm all for it. And I know when, I was going to tell about Dr. Johnson, when they were used to go to Saipan, and he would be teaching over there, spend several weeks every summer. His wife told him, Miss Lily, that they called him Captain Fun. Captain Fun. They loved it, because he was thinking up fun things to do. Do that with your family. Fun, serious business. I put this, JoJo Moffat said, girls, this is so important. I love this statement. Who you plan for and who you do for is who you love. So if you plan to do some of these things, if that's telling your children, I love you, you can say I love you 5 times a day. But if you don't plan for them, you don't do for them, you're not courteous to them and kind, are you communicating love? Probably not. But I love that. JoJo Moffat said that. Who you plan for and who you do for is who you love. All right, that's our first ingredients on raising our children. Our second one is discipline. I'm going to really hurry through this because I want you, when you have your children, to go back and read these verses. And there's others. I didn't put them all in here. But they're strong and they will help you. My daughter-in-law asked me one time, she was having trouble with our grandson. And he was just strong-willed, and I said, what can I do? I said, I wanted to tell her something good, because I wanted her to get it under control, for her sake and his sake. But I said, write down all the discipline verses in the Bible, mainly they're in Proverbs, and memorize some of them. That will help you, girls. Because it's not easy to discipline. But write it down, and so we're just going to go through some of them here. But if we truly love our children, we will discipline them. Effective discipline will be undergirded by God's word. That's what I just told you. Look at number 1 under that. That should be, for whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth. And as a father the son, in whom he delighteth. If we love our children enough, we will discipline them. You know why we discipline? We don't want them to be annoying brats. Do people like brats, girls? No. We want our children to be liked by others, right? So we work on them. We discipline them. We don't want them to grow up to be rebellious teenagers. So we discipline. I love you enough to discipline you. All right, number 2 under discipline. We're just going to kind of fill in these blanks. He that spared, and girls, I want you to notice these two blanks. I don't think there could be any stronger words than putting in these two blanks. And I didn't say them, God said them. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Is that strong or not? You love your child, you discipline your child. Discipline involves both spanking and talking. The next verse down there. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. How many of you ever seen a child embarrass their mother or daddy? Well, that's pitiful, isn't it? They need some discipline, okay? The rod and reproof. When children are, look at this, girls. When children are little, they need more rod. That's a spanking, okay? When they get bigger, you have less rod and more reproof, talking. It's the way it works. Here's the spanking process. And I got this from James Dotson, and we practice this. You talk to them first. Tell them what they did wrong. Explain it. Sometimes with kids it might take 5 minutes, okay? This takes a little, and sometimes it doesn't take as long. You talk, you spank, you talk again. Do they understand why they were spanked? And then you pray. You say, well, they're not even old enough to be saved. Well, you pray for them, okay? And get them to say, I'm sorry. We have what we call the spanking spoon, and this is actually it. It's a little worn out. You know, you use a spoon, you can use a rod. Our son and daughter-in-law, the one in Denver, they ordered rods off the internet. Get anything on the internet, right? A little leather strip about that long and about that thick, just a little. And my son has carried it in his back pocket, and there was a longer one. There were two that came together, okay? I'm gonna tell you this, and then we're gonna get off of discipline and go to the last point. But this is my classic story about children. Do children understand? You said, well, they don't really get it. I shouldn't spank, I should just talk. Do you think they understand discipline?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Our granddaughter, Jacqueline, was 2 in June. This was at Christmas. She was 2 and a half, okay? Our son Lange was putting her down in a bed at our house that she wasn't used to sleeping in and all. He was holding her. I was standing beside him. I was going to say goodnight to her, you know. And he said, now, Jacqueline, you've got your teddy bear, you've got your blanket, you got your music, you got your fan, we have a lot of stuff. And got all this, and so he was trying to tell her everything's going to be all right. You're going to lay down and go to sleep. And every time he said something, she kept dropping her head and that big poochy lip, you know. And then when he finished, y'all, this is what she said. I need to see the rod. I'm like, did I hear her right? I need to see the rod? So Lane didn't have it in his pocket. He went and got it. He held it up. He said, now, Jacqueline, you got ... And you're going to lay down and go to sleep like you should. She did. She just needed to see it. It just blew my mind. So I asked him, I couldn't wait to get out there and say, did I hear her right? And they said, well, sometimes, yes, she said that before. Sometimes she says, I need to see the big rod. You know, she really got to have it. They understand. Listen, y'all, you know, a 2.5-year-old child, you know, they're little. They understand. They understand. You just explain it to them, okay? And sometimes you have to spank. Okay, let's see. The destiny, this is big too. The destiny of our children is dependent upon our discipline of them. Now, I didn't say that either. The Bible said that. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but anybody know what that is? The rod of correction will drive it far from him. The children do crazy things, girls. They really, did you ever do anything crazy? Like, and your mom and dad said, were you not thinking? You ever done? Foolishness is bound in the heart of the child, but what will drive it far from him? The rod. No, it didn't just say reproof there and talking. It says the rod of correction. Okay, this next one blows my mind. Thou shalt beat him with the rod and deliver his soul from, what's that word? Hell. Girls, does the destiny of our children many times depend on our discipline of them when they're little? That's big, isn't it? So when you have your babies, girls, and they get, the first time you say, don't touch that, and they do it. And they do it again. And at that point, you might just pop hands, but you might have to get the little rod out too. You remember, go back and read these verses. That will help you. I used to, when our boys, one of them cried when he was spanked like he was killed, and the other one just, whoa, 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 it was so pitiful. And I would repeat this, I didn't even put that verse in here, but there's a verse that says, let not thy soul spare for his crying. And I'd say that to myself. I don't need, because it was getting to me, okay? You know, the hollering, or you the, I'm so sorry, I was a bad boy, blah, 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 blah. You know, and so, anyway, I would repeat that verse. You can learn these, repeat them to yourself. Okay, look at D, just another thing or two about discipline, and we'll move to teaching and training. Effective discipline will require unified parents. If there's any disagreement, it should be discussed privately and prayerfully. You all know, think about your own experience. If mom and dad disagree, does a kid know that? And do they pick up on that? And you won't always agree with your husband. You may think he's being a little hard. I did sometimes. But girls, I had to do a poker face. And we might talk about it later, and we would pray about it. That helped tremendously. Don't disagree. Don't go behind your husband's back. I asked one of my friends one time, ministry family was having trouble with their 2 teenage boys being rebellious. And I said to my friend, who was her pastor's wife, I said, well, what do you think the problem is? She said, the mother goes behind the daddy's back and lets them do things that, you know, that he doesn't approve of. Girls, you see, what that mother was teaching those children what? Rebellion. She was rebelling against her husband. They were learning it from her. It happens that way. We cannot do that. We got to be unified as a couple. Okay, number E, effective discipline will be unwavering. Say no and mean it. Realize that when you're with your children, best friends and buddies will come later in life. Right now, you're the parent. Oh, you love them, they love you, but you're the parent. Okay, you know better than them. You're a whole lot older, you got the Bible, you're a whole lot wiser, got a lot more experience, and don't let them get the best of you. At the end of the day, the score should be parent 1, child 0. You win. And I said to myself sometimes when my kids were, I had one strong-willed child, and I would say, Lord, I know that you and me together can outwit this child, because he was smart. He would work you around. They can be like that. But anyway, you say no and mean it. All right, another one, requirement for the minister. This is another one. Have hospitality is one. Here's another one. One that ruleth well his own house. This is, of course, from Timothy. Having his children in subjection. Now, girls, you read that next little bit. This is in the Bible. What if a minister does not rule well his own children that are in the home? Not talking about kids out the home that have their own minds and can do what they could go against their parents. But what if a minister does not rule well children that are in his home? What does that say? What question does God ask? How can he what? How can he take care of the church? He can't even take care of his own house. That is strong. Okay? So I know that some ministers have resigned because they said, their kids were maybe 13, 14, doing awful things. They're not ruling their own house. Okay. All right, so we've talked about love. That's one of the basic ingredients of raising children, discipline, and now let's hit teaching and training. That's up to us, okay? We're going to move right along. Teach them God's word yourself. This little handout, I want you to read it carefully, but the verse is from Deuteronomy about as we walk with our children, as we talk with them, as we put them to bed, as we get them up, do this diligently, and that word is used in the scripture. Be diligent and daily. Be teaching your children about God, just in natural conversation, okay? It should be interwoven into our life. Be committed to Christian education, private or homeschool. Girls, public education is full of evolution, socialism, homosexuality. The new head of education, I don't know if y'all heard this or not, but it was appointed by President Biden, is a transgender. He is the head of education now in America. Okay, it's full of atheism, and it starts in kindergarten, and it goes it's interwoven all the way through. There's no way I would put my child in a public school. I just say that, either private or homeschool. All right, teach them to obey. If they obey you now, who will they obey later? God. So that is, they will obey God later. And there's two great handouts. I think Holly's already picked up on one. How to get your child ready for life. That's along the lines of obedience and so on. And don't bubble wrap your child. Let's go along with teaching them to obey. All right, D, teach and train them to work. Training is the do in every lesson. This is my book. Small responsibilities can start by age 2 or 3. Can a 3-year-old or 2-year-old pick up their toys and make their spot look good? What about folding a few little clothes, like washcloths or something? Yeah, start them out. Because one thing, it makes them feel good, a part of the family. And you can say, look, you fold those better than mommy does. Because, I just kind of do them real fast. Use your children and train them.
I'm sorry, I believe I missed the blanks for C and B.
C and B? Well, B is private or homeschool. And C is, if they obey you now, they will obey God later. Okay, thank you for getting that. But the training, if we just tell a child to do something, he'll get it right 10% of the time. Okay? If we tell them and show them, this is like how maybe not the bed, okay? You show them how to make up the bed. They get it right 25% of the time. It's just the first few times after a while. But if you do it with them, you tell them and you do it with them and let them do it, 65% of the time they get it right. So training is the do. It's not just teaching, but it's doing. Those two lists you had, Holly, is teaching a girl how to sit, teaching a boy how to walk like a man and shake hands with somebody. My husband used to practice that with our boys, how to shake hands like a man, and they might be 6 years old. But these things are important, training, and there's 2 handouts on that. All right, teach them to work. I just went over that. Did I say that start ages 2 or 3? Did I say 3? Okay, teach them manners. I love this statement. Good manners will open doors that the best education cannot. Just good manners. Teach them. I was just going to show this really quick. Oh, let's see if I get down here. Things like this. How to cut something. Okay? Teach your children that. My husband's not, we just kind of got, but we see people all the time, or anyway, that's not but have them practice. I mean, they might not can do it as a 6-year-old. When they get a little bit older, people notice things like that. It's good manners. Teach them to be polite. Teach them to say thank you. Teach them to speak. Teach them to say, if somebody speaks to them, hi, how are you? Teach them to say, fine, how are you? Teach them the conversation ball. Teach them good manners. It goes a long way. Teach and train both on that. There's a verse in the Bible that says, even a child is known by his doings. They are. Okay, teach and train them by involving them in your ministry. They need a spiritual commitment themselves. How many of you in here that were ministry children that you did something as a child growing up in the ministry? Okay, that's so important, isn't it? It might be a bus route. It might be, I know our son that's a music director, the children used to have to go early with them, and they helped a Sunday school teacher that was there early. They kind of got assigned, just whatever. But they were little when that started. And Lange and Lee both worked with him at Patel. Was that ever a blessing? On a bus route. Not long after Mr. Patel got saved at Faith. So let them have a spiritual ministry. Okay, themselves. They don't need to just always be yours. All right, teach and train by your example. I love this statement. You'll not be 100% perfect. How many of us realize that? But, girls, can we be 100% genuine? Can you? You think you can be 100%? I think you can. Love people, love God, love church work, but never criticize people in the ministry in front of your children. Okay, if we love the church work, kids will. If we love people, kids will. I love this statement. Brother Christian Powell made it years ago at Faith. If we badmouth people in front of our children, we'll get over it. But the kids won't. The devil will see to it. And that's so true. Don't talk about, my husband's made this statement. He said, to this day, neither one of our boys can ever tell him, anybody, who he had trouble with at church. They don't know. And we didn't have a lot of trouble, thank the Lord, but there were a few, you know. Okay. Never apologize or poor mouth because dad is in the ministry. You see how that might could happen? Okay, instead, share rewards and blessings of the ministry with your children. Let me give you an illustration. We had not been in Goldsboro long, and maybe it's our first Christmas there. They gave us a $500, it was really big, think about, Christmas check, Christmas bonus. You know what my husband did? He gave me $100, and he gave each of our kids when they were little, pretty little, like 2nd grade, 4th grade. He gave them $50 each. Do you think that said to them, we're in part of Daddy's ministry? Yeah, that spoke volumes. Spoke volumes to me too. I like that $100. But let them visit people with you. My husband always made a few rounds to some real older folks, special people on Christmas Eve. He took the boys with him. Was that sharing blessings? You know, there's nothing better than visiting an old person, particularly at Christmas time. And there's, you know, the kids were just loving it. It was good for the kids. But share blessings with them. Okay, we're gonna make it, girls. Our child rearing efforts must be undergirded also by daily fervent prayer. Somebody, who will just volunteer to read that statement by James Dawson for me? Who's somebody? Okay, thank you, Felicity.
There is no greater privilege in living than bringing in a tiny human being into the world and trying to raise him or her properly during the next 18 years. Doing that job right requires all the intelligence, wisdom, and determination you will be able to muster from day to day. We must have the great parenting tool of prayer to do our job.
It is kind of scary. You girls, you think it's a little scary to raise children? And nowadays, with the internet and cell phones, it's scary. And we want to get it right. Remember our ingredients thing? Do we want to get it just right, girls? We want the love, the discipline, and the teaching and training to balance out, don't we? And girls, it's too big for us. But did God say he'd give us wisdom if we ask him? And I'm just telling you, if you'll live for the Lord, have your devotions every day, walk with God, and ask God to give you wisdom, and give you determination, and give you the intelligence to raise these children, will he do it? And this is the most, I'm going to end with this, is the most comforting thought to me. I don't know if I read it or the Lord just spoke to my heart years ago, but I ought to remind myself, God loves my children more than I do. He wants my children to do right more than I do. So is he going to help me? He wants them to do God's will for their life more than I do. So he's going to help me. And although it's scary, it's very doable. And it's a wonderful thing. There's no greater, I say there's no greater. There is, it's a privilege, a joy, and a responsibility like no other. So I hope you will enjoy reading the handouts. I hope you will keep this folder somewhere. And did any of you have a little comment? I've been wondering if I read all this. Oh, I love this one. This was on hospitality. And no name here, so you claim it. One of my favorite activities was summer cookouts where you invited the neighborhoods. Who was that? Okay, see here. Neighbors, and you had a cornhole tournament, grilled hamburgers, played badminton or volleyball, and had a fire and s'mores at the end. This was hospitality. Kids love that. Sierra, you remember that, right? That was big. Yeah, hospitality. So these things are, I've given you my best here, girls, what I've gleaned through the years. And I believe it's true, and we can raise children to count for the Lord. Although I might say it might be harder nowadays, but is God bigger than Satan? Yes, he is. A little thing that's a little bit scary, you think maybe Satan would target ministry children a little more than just the average child? Maybe. So But you know, we got a fight on our hands, but that kind of brings something out in me.
Do you think something like family devotions is really important
Oh,
too?
my goodness, I had it in one of these, somebody mentioned it. Yes. Oh, that was Sarah Age, Brother Nate's daughter. Friday night family time, she said, and family devotions were fun and interesting. Yeah, I mean, I didn't say that, you know, I didn't get it all in, but yes, most definitely. It doesn't have to be long. I've got a little book on creative family devotions, you know, you can do something different every now and then, but it can just be simple, but it's so important. And I know the Cordells, their family devotions, we were there many nights when they would have them. Everybody got on their knees and they prayed. It's precious. Yes, that's very important. Thank you for pointing that out. Anybody else got a little comment? The bell rings and it hasn't rung, so we got to, I never believe in going early, girls. You have it, this provoked some thought to you, something that your family did that maybe didn't mention, or is just some thought? Does it ring?
Actually, I don't know.
I don't think it does, but
I don't think there's
recording.
Okay, well, just let me finish this one little thought, because we got a minute according to that clock. But did you have any thought particularly? Anything kind of, I think you'll enjoy the handouts. Read them, keep them. I have more, but I didn't give them all to you. So we're glad for that. Oh my. But my goodness, raising ministry children. Plan, that's a big deal. Okay, you've been great listeners, thank you. You may go.